Remember now, sin is the transgression of the law, and the people transgress. Now Leviticus 17:10 through 14 gives us this. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people. I mean, they're not going to be in the fold, cut off. Many times that meant death. God is warning that those who eat blood will be cut off, and that he will be against them. And that's, you don't want God to be against you. That's a terrible thing to have the God of the universe against you. Some may ask, what's the big deal about blood? Well, God explains this in Leviticus 17:11 through 14. I just gave you Leviticus 17:10. So we're going to look at verses 11 through 14 and let God himself explain to us what does he mean by this. Now here's what God says in explanation of what we've just saw. He says this: for the life of the flesh, the life of the flesh is in the blood. And I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. Therefore, in other words, this is why. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten. Remember now, he gave a prescription as to what could be eaten. Those that chew the cud and cloven footed among the beasts, he said it was okay. In the sea, those that had fins and scales, he said they were okay. And bear in mind too, in the sea, God knew what he was talking about. In the sea, it's interesting to note that the animals that's got fins and scales, the scales help to give them an armor-like coating against bacteria that can just soak through the skin. For example, a catfish doesn't have scales. It's got fins on the tail but no scales. So a lot of bacteria can just soak straight into his skin and all kinds of diseases. But another fish, like a trout, for example, has got scales and fins, and the fins will also allow that fish to swim against the current, which is important sometimes when they want to escape polluted waters, if they can find some clean waters. And today, 2009, they probably can't find too much of it, but at one time they could swim out of polluted waters into a cleaner area. For example, if there was a spill, oil spill or whatever, in one area, the fish with scales and fins can swim against the current and get out of it. But other fish like shellfish, crab, and lobster, they generally are tossed about, and shrimp are tossed about by the current, and they can't really swim against it to get out of it. By the way, I asked a marine biologist once. I had jury duty, and there was a marine biologist on the jury, and I asked the question, what do shrimp eat? And they told me, fish droppings and other little stuff. And also, I learned from that, and also I used to be a nurse, and in nursing school they taught us, and this was also confirmed by the marine biologist, that every shellfish, every oyster, clam, scallop, each one of those filter 50 gallons of seawater per hour. Every one of those. Is it 50 gallons? Let me have to stop and think about that now. It's been so long ago. I forgot how many gallons. Don't quote me on the 50 gallons, but they filter a lot of seawater per hour, each one of those. And I thought, whoa, that's no wonder the waters are polluted, because man is busy harvesting up the filters, and then wondering how come the waters are polluted. Well, you're eating up the filters. God placed them there to filter the water, to help keep the water clean, but we're busy gathering them up and eating the concentrated filth in those. What a shame. Continuing on with the scriptures, we find this. It says, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust. For it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore, in other words, this is why I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh. For the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. Wow. I just did a Google research on oysters and filtration. I saw everything from 1.6 gallons per hour to 25 gallons per hour. Then I saw one source that says that oysters filter 50 gallons per day. The point that I want to make with that is that they are filters. No matter how much they filter, they are filters, and God placed them in the water to help keep the waters clean. But man is busy eating up the filters. Continuing on, we see this. You know, God's word is quite clear, first of all. God's word is quite clear. Can we find a Bible example where eating meat is called a sin? Yes, we can. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verses 32 through 34. And here's what it says. And the people flew upon the spoil, and we read this earlier, and took sheep and oxen and calves and slew them on the ground. And the people did eat them with the blood. Then they told Saul, saying, Behold, the people sin against the Lord, in that they eat with the blood. And he said, Ye have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day. And Saul said, Disperse yourselves among the people, and say unto them, Bring me hither every man his ox, and every man his sheep, and slay them here, and eat, and sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood. And all the people brought every man his ox with him that night, and slew them there. Now notice verse 33, the people sin against the Lord, in that they eat with the blood. In verse 34, Saul is pleading for his people to sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood. We must conclude that God is very clear in stating why it is a sin to eat meat with fat and blood in it. As long as the blood is the life of the creature, it is a sin to eat it. And sin is serious. Some may want to huff and puff and blow the house down, but we still can't get around this biblical fact. Eating meat is a sin when it contains fat and blood. Paul reminds us of this in Acts 15, verse 20. And here's what it says, But that we write unto them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, and from fornication, and from things strangled, and from blood. So Paul was making it clear too that, I agree with the Old Testament, and I've heard people say, oh, that was for the Jews. For the Jews? Yeah, they turn around and call themselves spiritual Jews. Isn't that something wrong with that picture? But then, do you suppose that a Jew's body is different from anybody else's body? Why would God prescribe something like this for the Jew and say because the life is in the blood? That doesn't sound like a distinction just for one particular people. The life is in the blood is period. The life of the animal is in the blood. No matter who's eating that animal, the life is still in the blood. So God would not make a distinction and tell the Jews, well, I don't want you to eat it because the life is in the blood. But all of you Gentiles, it's okay for you to eat it because the life not in the blood. Or it's okay for you to eat it although the life is in the blood. Think about that for a moment. So, the one fold that Jesus told us about will consist of those who love him and keep his commandments. That's all 10 of his commandments. They will also worship him on his seventh-day Sabbath. They will not eat meat with fat and blood in it. They will not eat the meat with blood in it, nor the fat, because he said the fat and the blood. Remember now, sin is the transgression